On the day of the swordsmanship festival, Mia was enjoying the festival with friends, a marked improvement from her previous life. A crimson pepper acted as the perfect wingman and helped her share an indirect kiss with Prince Abel. Cain, Abel's older brother, made an appearance mocking Abel's effort and claiming he would be his first match. During the intense duel, Abel recalled painful memories of Cain's mistreatment of the women in his life. Fueled by fury and resolve, Abel channeled his strength into a single decisive attack, defeating Cain for the first time ever.
And that's a match! Abel's matches continued and he was on a roll. His next two matches were also against two older students and he won them both. With these 3 straight wins, it was soon time for lunch. Anne and Chloe were preparing the food. They laid a rug on the soft grass that radiated a comfortable warmth in a corner of the courtyard. As Abel was approaching, Mia was beaming. "You were really amazing, Prince Abel." Mia was waving both hands at him. She was full of excitement. "Thanks, but I couldn't have done it without you cheering for me the whole way through." "No need to be modest. It is the result of all your hard work," Mia replied, for her gleeful humming suggested that she would not be upset if Abel would be more modest in showering her with more praises. "Even so, you're really very strong. I totally did not know it at all." Abel's winning of the matches was very unexpected, even for Mia. "I didn't think he was so strong. Maybe he could even knock Cian off from his high horse. What a sight that would be." Mia wasn't really interested in taking revenge on Cian or Tiona. That kind of drastic action is because, of course, it was really dangerous. Doing so would mean incurring their grudge, and that grudge might cause her to end up on the guillotine. She prefers to stay away instead of risking herself earning their wrath. But if she can do it without any risk to herself, it would be a shame not to do it. If the anti-Scion party could find itself a new champion, she'll be all over that in a heartbeat. Heck, propriety was the only thing stopping her from holding up a big "Let's go, Abel" sign and screaming her support at the top of her lungs. At this rate, first place seems well within your reach. I think it will be difficult because Prince Ian is still in the tournament. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. It's okay, Prince Abel. I'm sure you'll win. Be confident. Believe in yourself. Even though it's not about herself, Mia confidently announces and bumps her fist on her chest. "You are strong, so please, when Prince Ian shows up, keep that good for not What was that about me? Prince Mia? What? Prince Ian?" Mia jumped in surprise before welling up around to discover Cian, Kidwood, Tiona, and Leora standing behind her. "What in the moons are these guys here?" Cian's sandwich should have been delivered by Tiona. By this time, they should be having lunch somewhere else in the school building. She gave a questioning gaze towards Tiona. Tiona, however, gave her a wink and a thumbs up that seemed to say, "Don't worry, I got you covered." Lady Rudelbun told me that since all of you had a hand in making these, then we should eat it with Princess Mia. I hope we're not imposing. No, not at all. Feel free to join us. While answering that, Mia felt her facial muscles twitch as she forced herself to smile. "Why, you little... Even though you refused my invitation time and time again in the other timeline, now you just suddenly show up and invite yourself in?" That's right. Let us emphasize for the third consecutive time that in the previous timeline, Mia was forced to spend this swordsmanship tournament alone after Prince Ian refused her invitation. She ate the lunch she had prepared while crying, all alone. Oh, that never gets old. Nevertheless, the current attitude of Prince Ian was understandably irritating. When she saw Cian talking to Tiona and Anne with a gentle smile, a flame of anger suddenly rose up in Mia's stomach, and she was, "Oh, this sandwich is pretty interesting," immediately dissipated upon hearing Abel's comment. "Oh my, so, you noticed it?" In the blink of an eye, Mia reverted to her nervous, fidgety self. Seeing Abel picking up the sandwich she made gave her butterfly in her stomach. "Prince Abel is looking at the sandwich I made. Oh, the way he's staring at it so much. It's making me so nervous." Mia gulped as she watched Prince Abel's reaction. Her eyes grew wider from nervous anticipation until, oh, I see it now. This is a horse. Abel laughed and took a bite of the sandwich. Yeah, it's really delicious. This sandwich is very well made. Mia's wide-eyed stare was replaced by a bright smile upon hearing his words. That's wonderful to hear. I'm glad you like it. Hearing Abel's complimenting the sandwich she made, Mia was in a bliss. She felt like her body could fly out of happiness. After all, the unique characteristic of the sandwich is, obviously, its horse shape. Isn't that what made the sandwich great? And who was it that suggested making the sandwich in the shape of a horse? Yes, of course, it's none other than Mia herself. Then, that means that all the praises for this sandwich are obviously for Mia herself, right? Or at least, such logic was developed in Mia's brain. Of course, let us forget the adjustment of the ingredients so that it would fit this strange-shaped bread, the consideration of how to make the ingredients stick through the creative edible adhesive, the common sense in making the dough smaller, and many more to make this sandwich a success were all done by Kidwood. All his hard work, blood, sweat, and tears had amounted to nothing. Their significance so trifling to Mia that they had been wiped clean from her memory. In her eyes, it was all because of her. You can cry, Kidwood. It's okay. We understand. Prince Abel, do you have a moment? After the conversation with Tiona and the girls, Sion approached Abel. Prince Sion, what is it? Abel tilted his head, curious as to what Sion wanted to talk about. I know it is late, but congratulations on your first victory over your brother. Oh, thank you for that. Abel smiled carefreely. Then, Sion bowed his head a little. I also owe you an apology. Huh? What are you talking about? Sion continued to bow his head before Abel. I thought for sure that you would lose. I thought the difference in ability between you and your brother was quite clear. Well, how rude. There is no way Prince Abel would have lost to a bonehead like his brother. Mia's opinion on Sion decreased by a few points. However, Abel smiled bitterly at Sion's words. I think you might be right. I was only lucky to win. I didn't win because of my skills, like you, Prince Sion. Well, how humble. Mia's opinion of Abel increased by a few points. The element of luck is also important, Prince Abel. I could not have made it this far on pure skill alone either. Well, of course you couldn't. That goes without saying. You're only winning because you keep getting lucky. Mia agreed with Sion's assessment of himself. I'm honored to hear that from you. I'll take that to heart. It totally isn't, Prince Abel. So what if this shark praises you? Who cares what he says? There is no need to make a big deal about it. Mia actually objected to that statement pretty strongly. Anyway, let's make the next match a good one. With that said, Sion extended his hand. There was a big confident smile on his face. It was a gesture of many things. Trust, rivalry, and mutual respect. An honorable pact between two young men to each give his all in their upcoming duel. In that moment, a new friendship was born. A friendship between hot boys. Sitting beside Mia, Chloe let out an enraptured sigh. So dreamy. Anne and Tiona seemed equally mesmerized by the two princes as they watched the scene before them with wide, spellbound eyes. As for Leora, she poked at the meat in the sandwich, confirming that the chicken was in fact well roasted, and nodded to herself in satisfaction. You see, Leora was a girl who knew her priorities. Likewise, Mia wasn't interested in this hot boy friendship either. If anything, she was now in a bad mood. Just earlier, when things were getting good between her and Abel, Sion showed up and robbed her of his attention. So, in a display of petulance characteristic of her age, Her Royal Highness produced her angry pufferfish cheeks, beating angrily at the sandwich in a moody manner. Then again, for someone who was technically 20-something, her behavior was rather ridiculous. And Prince Abel was just praising my sandwich just now. Would it hurt for you to stop butting in already? Fumed Mia as she gave Abel's sleeve a quick tug. When she turned to her, she looked straight into his eyes. Remember my sandwich? Remember how good it was? Why don't you praise it some more, Well, you see, Mia was a girl who was actually kind of annoying. Seeing Sion's outstretched hand, Abel defaulted to his usual innocuous smile. It was a smile of convenience, one that said nothing and committed nothing. It made no enemies and created no hostility. But that was all. It had no further substance. Wearing his usual smile, he had intended to say, "Yes, let's make it a good match." He imagined himself losing. "I don't know how much of a fight I'll put up, but I'll try my best. If nothing else, it will be a good learning experience for me." This was what he was planning to say in advance. It helped him to stop hoping, to stop caring. That way, he wouldn't feel the pain when he ultimately failed. It was a part of him, the lens through which he saw the world and the way in which he navigated it. He had done so since childhood. It was how he would survive. But now, what? He felt a tug. Turning around, he found Mia's fingers on his sleeve. He looked at her. She held his gaze. Her beautiful wide eyes were lit by a serious light, and it was as if she was talking to Abel. "You are strong, Prince Abel." What echoed in Abel's mind was the words that Mia said earlier. "You are strong. Trust in yourself. I know you'll win." She told him so. Then something changed in Abel's mind. A gear, perhaps, or a spoke. And then the clockwork of logic reversed its story. "I have no choice to win." To keep her words from becoming untrue, to protect the sanctity of her unwavering trust, "Prepare yourself, Prince Sion." Words flowed from his lips, the familiar voice, but the tone foreign. What was this? He had never heard it before. Then he realized it was determination. "Prepare yourself, Sion Solksolen." Huh? Sion was quite puzzled by Abel's sudden change of demeanor. "I, Abel Remno, will not lose to you." Sion regarded the young prince, who responded to his promise of swordsmanship with a declaration of war, and grinned. "Is that so? Challenge accepted then, Abel Remno. Let us duel to our heart's content. It would be my pleasure to crush you with all my might." Faced with these fiery exchanges, the spectating trio of Chloe, Anne, and Tiona couldn't help but swoon and sigh. Even Leora, who had been poking at her sandwich again and again, couldn't help but swoon and sigh at how well roasted that chicken was. "But my sandwich! What about my sandwich?" Mia, meanwhile, also mulled sadly at her sandwich, at the tragedy of it being ignored, and let out a helpless sigh. Let us start the next match and the final match. Prince Sion Solksolen, Prince Abel Remno. Please come up to the arena. The two princes, who were called by their names, slowly walked onto the arena. Many students gathered around the arena to watch. As a crown prince of a kingdom and known as the genius of the sword, Sion attracted a lot of people. Abel, on the other hand, also attracted a large following, especially with him just being a first year and having a winning streak. Well, this is certainly unexpected. I didn't think we would get so much attention. With a wry smile, Abel bowed to Sion. Then, he unsheathed his sword and raised it above his head. It was the first stand of the style of swordsmanship that was passed down by the Remno royalty. In contrast to Abel's rather aggressive stance, Sion held his sword loosely far below his waist. Sion's sword stance reflected his genius. Using deflections and parries, he would tire his opponent down. Then, he would wait for the perfect time to strike. His style was based on counterattacking. Each of his attacks were fatal because he only attacked when his opponent was completely vulnerable. With their weapon parried and their balance lost, they had no way of avoiding the single match-ending stroke of his sword. It was a style that demands extreme precision and absolute confidence, a style that was impossible for Abel. Abel Remno was an ordinary person. He was aware of it from the time he was born. But all his thought changed when he crossed swords with Sion. There, he noticed that there is a natural difference in talents. He noticed that some were born better than others. The experience taught him many things, that geniuses existed. There was a big gap, and it was a gap that he would never close. He had seen it and experienced it firsthand. It was this day that he fully realized how mediocre he was. And so he gave up. It was the wisest choice. Some people are just more talented. He could try it all he wanted, but he knew that he wouldn't be able to catch up. There was no use in trying. It was a perfectly logical decision. But then, he came to Saint Noel Academy and met Mia. And something changed. A desire began to grow inside him. He did not want to lose to Sion. He wanted to win. For in winning, it will show that Mia was right to believe in him. But alas, reality is cruel. The cleft between their talent was as deep as ever, and it swallowed his desire whole. If a person has talents but is lazy and doesn't practice, then one might win by working hard. Work hard and effort can overcome a talented person who does not work hard. Unfortunately, Sion was not such a slouch. Though he was born with talents, he never took it for granted. Abel practiced hard, but so did Sion. Abel was facing a genius who never stopped working hard. For him, who is not a genius, no amount of effort would ever be enough. The gap between them would never close. It would only grow wider. A normal approach would never work. Therefore, Abel threw away what was normal. In hindsight, it was simple. If he is never going to be the better swordman, he just needs to be the better at something else. He had to burn away his training, narrow his focus, throw away any defense, throw away the feints, throw away the trust. He concentrated his effort on only one thing. He raised his sword, and he swung it down. He repeated it. Then he did it again, faster this time, and again. This time even faster. He devoted all his time to his swinging motion since the night at the dance at the party. Every day he poured his heart and soul into practicing only this one swing. And now is the time to see the fruits of his efforts and hard work. He swung. Today, he would conquer genius. Today, he would slay a god. The sound of high-pitched metal filled the arena. Half a second later, his hands felt the reverberating shock. Abel realized his blow was blocked. It still wasn't enough. Despair slowly crept up to him. He waited for the end. He waited and waited. But it did not come. There was no counterattack from Sion. Abel's world came back into focus. Their swords are still clashing. And he was winning? He noticed that they were at the edge of the arena, and Sion was a step away from exiting the ring. Thought you said you were not going to hold back. I apologize for not living up to your expectations, but circumstances seem to be forcing my hand. I don't know if you're mocking me, or... Abel took offense at Sion's answer, but when he saw the sweat rolling down on Sion's face, he reconsidered. Or maybe not. Well, it doesn't matter as my repertoire is rather limited after all. Abel stepped back and once again positioned for his overhead stance. Then he swung again. Ugh. Sion barely avoided the strike. The blade missed him by a hair's width. He wasn't trying to show off his skills in dodging. The swing was just so fast that he had to focus everything on dodging, and even so, he could only dodge it at the last minute. Damn, wasn't really expecting this. He did not underestimate Abel's abilities. He was fully aware of the dangers of underestimating an opponent. However, Abel's swings were more than he expected. They were faster, sharper, and heavier. He could barely hold his sword in defense from Abel's strikes. There was no time to parry, his arms bearing the full force of the brutal impact. I can barely feel my arms. The last time this happened was when I was training with father. The last strike left him in a disadvantageous position. He could barely keep holding onto his sword. Counterattacking was totally out of the equation. It bears repeating that Sion Sol Songland was a true genius. One strike was all he needed to grasp the range of Abel's swing. Ah! Abel swung his sword again. This time, he evaded it purely through footwork. Still, it's a good thing I only have to deal with the overhead swing. Otherwise... Sion was aware that he could dodge the overhead swing because it was the only attack that Abel really uses. If Abel mixed any other motions into his repertoire, they didn't have to have the same force, so long as they provided a tiny bit of variety and kept opponents on their toes, they would create an opening for his match-ending power stroke. Theon realized Abel's hidden potential and the danger he was in. The thought alone sent a shiver through his spine. Anyway, there's no choice but to wait for my arms to recover from the shock of blocking his strike. I don't know how many seconds it will take for the numbness to heal. A question occurred to him and he decided to ask. Tell me something, Prince Abel. What is it that makes you so strong? Is it perhaps Princess Mia? That's right. Princess Mia believed in me and wished for my victory, so I can afford to lose. I thought so. I wish I were in your shoes. However, I cannot afford to lose. The numbness in his arms was slowly recovering. Just a few more seconds and he would be ready. As he raised his sword, he waited, and the whole arena waited as well. A drop of rain landed on the point of his blade and he readied it for a counterattack. This is it for this video. We will continue with the story of the Guillotine Princess in the next episode. This was Marco the Bureau Mexican from Jobless Whips. Matanem!